Bom dia! We've made it to Salvador, a very historic city here in Brazil. A city which has been on my bucket list since the day that I arrived here in Brazil. It's actually the oldest city of Brazil. It was founded back in 1549 by Tomé de Souza on behalf of the Portuguese Empire. And as such, being the oldest city of Brazil, it is also one of the oldest cities of the Americas and one of the first planned cities in the world. And behind me, guys, is the beautiful Barra Beach, which has been named in 2010 as the third best beach in the world. And yes, it's the most popular beach to come here in Salvador. Salvador, by the way, is not only Brazil's oldest city and as such Brazil's most historic city, but also has very bad reputation as being Brazil's most dangerous city. So, without further ado, let's check it out. Vamos! This city here sits on a triangular peninsula and is bordered by the Bay of All Saints, as you can see there on the west, which is the biggest bay of Brazil. You can see it up there in the distance, and to the Atlantic Ocean to the east. So somewhere in that direction is Africa. And Africa is also playing a major role when it comes to this city. This city is the center of Afro-Brazilian culture. It has, they say, the biggest ethnically and also culturally and religiously speaking African population outside of Africa. This is due to a very, very sad fact. This city, during the time of the Portuguese Empire, used to be the capital of colonial Brazil for 200 years, from its foundation in 1549 until it got replaced as a capital by Rio de Janeiro in the 1760s. And due to its proximity and its geographical location in northeastern Brazil, and thus its proximity to Europe and Africa, it was a very important commercial link for the Portuguese. It was like the center of the slave trade, basically, and formed an important link between Portugal and the other Portuguese colonies in Africa and Asia. And as such, millions of African slaves were deported here by the Portuguese and formed over the years the biggest African population outside of Africa. Most of the enslaved Africans that got deported here to Bahia, the state of Bahia, of which Salvador is the capital, came from sub-Saharan Africa, from the Yoruba-speaking part of Africa. And check out the waves, guys. This is also a very popular surfing spot for any surfers out there. No, tá bom, obrigado. This city, by the way, has a population of over 4 million people, making it the 9th largest city in South America. Or Latin America even, I'm not sure. And it has the biggest ethnically African population outside of Africa, which is due to the dark history of the Portuguese Empire, obviously. And regarding safety issues, this city has a very dark reputation, obviously. When you ask people in other parts of Brazil about Salvador, they're all going to tell you the same thing. It's very beautiful, one of the best places to visit in Brazil, but also very, very dangerous. Everyone tells you it's super dangerous and stuff. And yes, I reckon it's my second day here now. I flew in 2 days ago, and I reckon at night, like everywhere, it feels a bit sketchy and dodgy, because streets are quite empty. This here is the area of Bahia in the south of the city, with the most popular beach, as you can see, and it's deemed one of the safest and best areas to stay as a visitor. But even here at night time, it feels a bit, you know, a bit dodgy, because streets are empty, not a lot going on. But to be fair, during the day, it feels a lot safer actually than Rio. And yeah, you see some homeless people around and some junkies around, but not more than in Belo Horizonte or Rio or Sao Paulo. I think that's just a thing here in Brazil. You've got lots of poverty in this country, but I don't really feel in danger. By the way, this city is also the poorest of Brazil. The oldest, the poorest, and apparently the most dangerous. Brazil, as much as I like this country, I love this country, has some issues with racism, which everyone is aware of. There's a lot of racism, especially towards the black community of Brazil. I have to stop for some coconut. As you know, I like coconut, so can't resist. And it's a whopping 5 reais, which is costs €1. Muito obrigado.
A little. It's important to be careful.
Yeah, like everywhere.
Yes. Yes.
But a good place.
And are you what?
No. This will be out in like
record.
2 weeks. This will be out in like 2 weeks. Oh. So as you guys might know, I love coconut, especially when I'm on the beach. So couldn't resist. Cost €1, 5 reais. So, and by the way, guys, I forgot to tell you. Despite being deemed the most dangerous city of Brazil, this city, Salvador de Bahia, is also the second most popular tourist destination in Brazil, after only Rio de Janeiro, which is quite astonishing. And it's a lot cheaper here, obviously, than in Rio de Janeiro, despite being apparently so touristy. And maybe I'm not here in the high season, but the only tourists that I've seen so far, my hostel is fully booked, but my hostel is full of Brazilians, so most tourists that do come here are Brazilian tourists from all over the country. Also these guys that we've just met when we bought their coconut, they were from Curitiba in the south of Brazil. So yeah, mostly Brazilian tourists here, not many international tourists. And I've been into the water yesterday. I went to the beach yesterday. Yesterday, for once, I was just chilling and sleeping on the beach and going into the water. And I can tell you one thing, the water here is flipping cold. It's the Atlantic Ocean. But yeah, it's lovely. It's up there with the best beaches I've ever visited in my life. Much better than Cancun, Mexico. Much better than Cartagena, Colombia. I really like it. So in regards to the beach, highly recommend this place. We're now at the Barra Lighthouse, the famous Barra Lighthouse, one of the most touristic places to visit here, as you can see. And we can also see our first taste of the African culture here. El Salvador, check it out.
Ajudar o projeto com 10, 20 reais, ajudar 10 reais o projeto.
No, tá bom. We've seen our first taste of African culture, the beautiful side of Salvador. And we've also seen how once to get to that point before we explore Old Town Salvador. The city has a very dark reputation when it comes to scammers. The city is renowned to be full of scammers, and we've seen our first example of that just right now. I just, as you can see in the video, walked past them with my camera, and then they wanted money for me filming them. They wanted 30 reais from me for filming them. That's €6. Man, I told them I don't have cash, brother. I'm sorry. Forget that. So this is the dark side of Salvador. So far I don't feel in danger in terms of petty theft or something. Not more so than in other places, but yes, there are some scammers around. Loads of them. But that's kind of normal. I mean, the mixture of poverty and tourism is never a good mixture. It always brings up scammers. Scammers are created by that unhealthy mixture. But yeah, that's life, I reckon. Right guys, this is it. This is where the Portuguese arrived. And this is the Bay of All Saints, the biggest bay of Brazil. And this on the other side is the Atlantic Ocean. So if you continue in that direction, for I don't know how many hours, you'll arrive in Africa at some point. By the way guys, Africa, in terms of distance, is actually not much further away from here than Ecuador, the most western edge of South America, which is pretty astonishing. Hello. And as you can see, a very popular place for people to come and take their pictures. I reckon that we should go check out the center, the historic center of Salvador. Because as you can see here, in Barra, with the houses, it's a pretty modern area. It's a pretty modern area, which was mainly built in the 90s. And so, let's go to Pelourinho. Pelourinho, as this is called, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The oldest part of Salvador and the oldest part of Brazil. The heart of Brazil.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you like water? Do you like beer? Do you like soda?
Yeah, but not now. Obrigado.
Thank you so much.
I like all of these things, but not for the price that he's offering it to me. Todo mundo? Ok. Melhor do mundo. Menor que Rio?
Sim, isso aqui, ó, lotado.
Mais gente em Salvador por Carnival que em Rio? Não.
Sim, mais
Sim?
gente?
Sim.
Sim.
See? Scam alert guys. These guys painting your arms are massive scammers. They're going to come to you, paint your arms, say it's for free, and then they want money for it. I've been warned about this, and I'm actually quite shocked that I've already seen 10 of these people around, so yeah. But as these lovely ladies just said, Carnival in Rio is nothing compared to the one of Salvador. I also want to tell you this guys, the Carnival of Bahia, the Carnival of Salvador, is the most famous in the world, and it's renowned as the biggest party in the world. Every year more than 4 million people come to the city to celebrate Carnival, including the population of course. So, Rio might be the most famous one, but Salvador is the biggest one and apparently the best. So if you want to come to Brazil for Carnival, then Salvador might be a good choice. Well now let's call up that Uber and get out of here. Just to show you guys how much it costs to take a Moto Uber here in Brazil. Now my Moto ride is going to cost me 12.4 reais, which is about €2.40 or something, $2.50. Check it out guys. It's quite a long way actually. Walking it would be like 1.5 hours walking. So yeah, it's not a small city.
Mototáxi de Salvador amarelinho.
Amarelinho.
Bora no Rico, Farol da Barra, coisa boa. A gente vai chegar até o Pelourinho. Lá agora.
In the beautiful part, the beautiful modern part of Salvador. A place where you need to come to stay and go out at night. Now, let's check out the historic center where Jew is going to take us. One more Jew. Beautiful mixture here of old Renaissance buildings and modern buildings. Modern rough buildings and old Renaissance buildings. Beautiful city. Muito bom, Salvador. Muito lindo. Right, got this alley here. It's where the Carnival is taking place, where the maddest celebrations are going on. It's like a downtown market area. Alright guys, we've made it to Pelourinho, the historic center here of Salvador. One of the oldest places of Brazil, check it out. And to all my Portuguese friends, this looks a lot like home, doesn't it? Wowzers, wonderful place. One of the most famous places in all of Brazil. And if somebody told you that this was Lisbon or Porto or whatever, you'd probably believe it. It's the most Portuguese place I've personally seen outside of Portugal. I've not been to Portugal a lot, but I've been to Lisbon already. And this place here, this square here, man, looks so much like Lisbon. You can really feel the Portuguese vibe here. And loads of military police here as well. What you've got to know about this area here of Pelourinho, the historic center, is that, as so often in Latin America, it is not the safest area. I mean, the massive police presence here, even military police, speaks for itself. But yeah, it's more the surrounding areas of Pelourinho which are deemed quite dodgy, quite sketchy. In all of Latin America, mostly the Spanish were. And to be fair, most Latin American old towns, historic centers all look the same because they all look Spanish. But here, the Portuguese were for an exception. And this looks quite different, quite authentic. And here's another scammer for you guys. Just ignore these people. Just ignore them. I mean, I don't get it. Why these people always have to, you know, destroy the vibe. Could be somewhere in the Algarve or Lisbon. Hey. And these people, as you could see, just got scammed. They had their arms painted. And yeah, there's unfortunately something which happens here in the old town of Salvador, the Bahia. It's been a long time since I went to a church. So. Oh, okay. Right guys, as much as I like going to churches, as much as I would have liked showing you this church from the inside, I'm not gonna pay 10 reais, $2 to get into a church. Not gonna support that. Another very interesting fact about this city and about the culture of this city is that most enslaved Africans that were brought here by the Portuguese came from the sub-Saharan part of Africa and of modern Benin to be precise, from the Yoruba speaking region, and also their religion was Yoruba. But all of these enslaved African people were obviously forced by the Portuguese to convert to Christianity, to convert to the Catholic Church. And as such, they developed a mixture of their native Yoruba religion and Christianity by combining their Yoruba deities with some Christian saints that had the same qualities. And as such, they developed a religion of Candomblé. And Candomblé, yeah, it's basically that mixture that's developed here in the state of Bahia and the city of Salvador between Roman Catholicism and the African Yoruba language. And ceremonies in Candomblé, sorry, I had to read it again. Ceremonies in Candomblé are still to this day held in Yoruba and not in Portuguese. And as such, many people here in this city still speak Yoruba, the West African language. Pretty amazing. So theoretically, if you guys are from Western Africa and speak Yoruba, you could come here and speak your language in this city. Not everyone's gonna speak it, obviously, but many people do. We've got loads of African art here, Yoruba art. So if you guys are into African culture, then you should absolutely check this place out, I reckon. Bom dia. And this, by the way, guys, is the football club of Salvador, of Bahia. Esporte Clube de Bahia, most popular club here of the state of Bahia. Everyone is wearing the shirt here. You only see two kinds of shirts here in regards to football in the streets, and that's this, Bahia, and Flamengo. Flamengo has fans all over the country, it's the most popular club. Salvador is internationally renowned for its culture, music and cuisine. So, I'm now going to try out a traditional local snack called Aaji. Bom dia. Hi. Called Aaji. Some fried stuff. Here you can see it. It's fried in there. And it's filled with shrimp, so Aaji de Camarão it is called. And we're now going to try it out. It's probably more expensive here than somewhere else in the city, but I mean 15 reais, €3 is still alright, so yeah. Let's try it out. Right guys, so I've received my Aaji, check it out. This is how it looks. It's basically like some fried potato I guess, I reckon, filled with shrimps and some vegetables, so tastes quite good. So let's sit down and see how it tastes. And I've got to watch out here with the camera because there's loads of scammers around, loads of thieves trying to rob, and yeah. Right guys, sort of today, right guys, apparently no apparently a lovely lady which is holding the camera for me, and now I'm gonna try out the shrimps, and yeah. Obrigado. Muito amable. Obrigado. That was the camera woman. But yeah. Very good, guys. I've seen another YouTuber recently that had been here and said that this snack here was bad, was shit. I like it. It's not a lot. But man, I like it. It's tasty. So, as it's very tough to eat this and holding the camera, I'm now going to finish it. It's really good, really. Aaji, recommend it. I'm now going to finish it and then we continue exploring. See you in a bit. Bon appetit. What I really don't like about these places is that you cannot just chill and look at something without being arrested for money. Like, now off camera, as soon as I've turned the camera off, these guys, one of them came up to me and said, "Where are you from?" All of the usual touristy rip-off talk, and then they wanted to, get some money to get some help, support the cause. I don't know, I don't like that. I mean, I like to support people, but I'm not rich. I cannot throw money around. Most tourists are not rich. And yeah. Well, check it out, guys. Let's just sneak some footage here of the African culture. Beautiful culture, beautiful music. But this white couple that you've just seen, well, they're in for a bad surprise. They'll be ripped off. They're about to be ripped off. But yes, let's not focus on the negative side. On the positive notes, check out how beautiful it is here. Wonderful place and good food. That street food we've just had, that traditional Bahian street food, was delicious. But I'm in the mood for a dessert, so let's go for my favorite Brazilian food. Let's go for some açaí. Right, guys, if you wonder, do I eat açaí every day here in Brazil? No, I didn't have açaí every day, but practically on most of the days, like again now. And you know, when you see this video, guys, by the time you see this video, I'll already be back in Europe, unfortunately. So I'll need to eat as much of this shit now as I possibly can, because I'm addicted to it. So I'm gonna tug into this now. Bon appetit, and see you in a bit, guys. Muito bom. Muito gostoso. Right, guys, we finished our açaí, got myself some water, and now we're at the Plaza Municipal. Check it out. Wowzers. One of the most impressive buildings I've seen in Latin America. And this happens to be the oldest square of Brazil, the Plaza Municipal, the governmental building of Brazil's oldest capital. The city, as I've told you before, has been the capital of colonial Brazil for 200 years. And this is where the colonial government or regional government was stationed at. Check it out. All these Renaissance looking buildings. And then the modern, rotten buildings right next to it. This area here, Pinheiros or whatever it's called, also has a very interesting history. Not only is it the old historic center and thus the touristic hotspot of town, but in the 90s the government of Salvador had, you know, chased out the poor population that lived here and chased them into the periphery of the city and into, you know, the barrios, or whatever you want to call it, right next to it. Check it out.
aeropuerto porque se iba para Europa y volvía y todo.
Down there we can see the port of Salvador. No obrigado. Get in, harassed on camera. If you guys question the popularity of this city, just check it out. There's the painting scam again. The painting scam. Check it out. He now wants money. This guy as well. Don't trust these people. Don't let these guys touch your arm, because they're gonna ask money for it. So, Salvador in a nutshell. Beautiful city, one of the prettiest I've seen, maybe the prettiest I've seen in Latin America. Maybe my new favorite city in Latin America. But the scammers just destroy the vibe. What a beautiful place. Nonetheless. I mean, I wanted to say, if anyone questions the popularity of this city among tourists, check this out. I mean, people lining up here to take their pictures. It is for a reason. It definitely is for a reason. But of course, poverty and tourism is always a dangerous mix-up. By the way, this plaza here, the oldest of Brazil, is nowadays called Plaza Tomé de Souza, after the founder of this city. Currently, we're at one of the most important squares of Salvador, the square of Castro Alves, dedicated to the most important poet of Bahia, Castro Alves. The square had always been a very popular gathering place for the people. The public market used to be held here, and is still, up until this day, a popular spot for political protests, and also one of the main spots of the famous Bahia Carnival festivities. It is right here that the party is going on, will be going on in a few weeks from here. Maybe at the time that you see this video, the party here at this exact square is going on. And this monument right here is dedicated to abolitionists, they call it, poets, Castro Alves, and underneath it we can see a couple dressed in rags, which is symbolizing slavery in Brazil, which unfortunately is a big part, a huge part of the history of this city. And looking ahead of us, basically it's Salvador in a nutshell. This square symbolizes Salvador. Ahead of us we can see the rough buildings. I mean, does it get any rougher than this? Symbolizing the poverty of this city. I mean, it is Brazil's poorest city. And then on the other side we can see a fancy hotel, the Fazano Hotel, fancy Renaissance buildings, the start of the historical center, and then the square, the monument, the Castro Alves monument, and behind it, one of the best viewpoints of the city, the Mirador Castro Alves, the Castro Alves viewpoint. Check it out, guys. Overlooking the port and the Atlantic Ocean, as well as the Bay of All Saints, of course. We're now about to take the elevator down to the port area down there. Check out the port area. And this elevator here, guys, which we're about to take, is a pretty historic one. It's existed for 150 years already. Right guys, that was a quick one. Best thing, this elevator gets you down and up again in 10 seconds and it's for free. And now all these scammers trying to sell you water. Nah, that really is Salvador in a nutshell. Beautiful place, could be my favorite place in Brazil, maybe even in South America, but the scammers destroy it all. And check out these houses guys. Now this is the view from down here. I mean, we've been up there before. Look at it, the beautiful Renaissance building up there. Former governmental building of Brazil, of colonial Brazil. And down here, in the poor area, the houses look a bit different, in a different state. I reckon these weren't part of the reconstruction, of the refurbishment that took place in the 1990s. But now anyway, let's check out the port. Brazil's oldest port and one of the oldest ports of Latin America, of the Americas I should say, and also one, if not the most important port of the Portuguese colonial empire. It was from here that Salvador formed a vital commercial link with Portugal and the other Portuguese colonies in Africa and Asia, which is also why so many, due to the proximity to Africa from here, which is also why so many millions of enslaved Africans were deported here by the Portuguese. We've now entered the old market of the port. Of course, these days it's not a traditional market, it's more, a tourist rip-off place, I reckon. You can only buy souvenirs here, and I reckon this ain't the best place for you guys if you come on holiday here, which you should, to buy your souvenirs. It's probably so expensive here. If I look around, it's just tourists here basically. You also got some food upstairs, I reckon, but we've already had lunch, so we'll pass, thankfully. Check out these buildings, guys. Beautiful Salvador.
Água mineral gelada, água. E aí pessoal, vamos beber água. Mineral gelada.
Traffic in the city, by the way, it's not the most insane I've witnessed on this trip especially. Much better than Bogota, Lima, and also Sao Paulo and Rio, but comes in 5th place, I reckon. It's also quite insane, quite hectic. I mean, it's not a big city, but 4 million people live here. And here guys, we have arrived at, as it seems, a chill area, a chill out area. Check it out, in the middle of the port. With a beautiful view of that bay over there, which looks, I've got no information at time of recording about that small island there, but it looks like a prison. Might have been the colonial prison back in the days. Looks like it. But yeah. Over there we've got the Bay of All Saints. I'm always forgetting the names. The Bay of All Saints. With the other part, the neighboring state of Brazil right next to it, which we can see in the distance. And over there we've got on the other side the Atlantic Ocean. So if we go into that direction, we land in Africa after a few hours. Well, days, weeks probably. No. So guys, you can see, yeah, some part of the poverty here of the city, some elements of the poverty of the city. Salvador in itself is a mixture of beauty and poverty, unfortunately. And right ahead of us, guys, is the port, the major area of the port. We've been in the port area, all of this here, all of this downtown area, all of the lower city is basically the port, but this is the major area of the port. There's basically an upper city in Salvador and a lower city, and the lower city looks a lot rougher than the upper city. Many tourists, as you can tell, also arrive in the city by ferry, on cruise ships. Many cruise ships arrive here and make daily stops here in Salvador. And the city, as you can tell, had been no puedo entrar como eso. Calle, de embarque. Okay. Right, been refused entry, unfortunately. Wanted to get in and have a sneak peek inside the port, but doesn't seem that interesting, to be fair. So the city, as you can tell, from its foundation in 1549 up until today, has been a commercial hub, and this port has played a major role. I mean, the major role in the development of the city. So guys, my camera is about to die, so I reckon this beautiful viewpoint here in the uptown of the historical center, overlooking the port, is the perfect place to end the video. Off camera, just a few minutes ago, I got aggressively harassed by some scammer again. And let's not get into the negatives. Like every city in the world, Salvador has its downsides. There's loads of scammers here. Loads of pickpockets as well, I reckon. But you shouldn't be put off by its reputation as Brazil's most dangerous city to come here. I mean, it's a beautiful place, as we've seen today. Check it out. Salvador is actually one of those places where I will surely come back in the future. I really like it here, and I'm happy to have come here. I'm still here for another 2 days, and then I'll be flying back to Rio, and then in Rio we'll be making another few videos. And yeah, thanks for watching guys, hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that I'll put Salvador on your bucket list. You should come here, it's an interesting place and a beautiful place. Of course you should watch your pockets, as everywhere in the world, and there are scammers as everywhere in the world, but don't be put off to come here. I mean, to be honest with you guys, I don't feel more in danger here when it comes to safety than in Sao Paulo or Rio. So actually in my last video, when we've been to Sao Paulo's dodgy market, biggest market right in the dodgy area, I felt a lot unsafer than here in Salvador. So, ciao from Salvador guys. I'll see you soon. Hasta luego. Por favor, amigo.
Quando claro, apague o lampião. Obrigado. Thanks.
This guy didn't ask anyone for money. So he deserved something.